So I'm going to be talking about 2D artwork basics, specifically the order of operation. So the order of operation that I teach in my classes, which are the steps that you should be taking in your artwork, are figure out your picture plane, orientation of the picture plane, horizon line, vanishing point or points, subject matter, perspective, and background. The picture plane is essentially the area in which you are viewing or working with. So if you think about the 2D artwork as a porthole or a window or something along those lines, these are what you see through the lens or through the area that you're working in. So the two most basic orientations are portrait, where the long edge is on the side and the short edge is on the top, or landscape, where the long edge is on the top and the short edges are on the side. But you can do this in different sizes. So you can do a typical 9" by 12". You can do a smaller size, like a 6" by 9". You can do this in squares. You can do this in circles, or you can do it in other different amorphic shapes. But ultimately, we're going to be focusing mostly on the basic 9" by 12" sheet of paper. And sketchbooks can range from anywhere 8.5 by 11, 9 by 12, or any other variations. But the general size is usually 8.5 by 11 or 9 by 12. So the orientation allows you to show different parts of the world that you're making. So in a portrait, you typically want to stick with things that are taller and narrower, whereas landscapes, you are going to do things that are wider and shorter. The horizon line is an imaginary line that separates the sky from the ground. So a lot of times, especially with younger students, I get students that bring the sky down to about here and then the ground goes about here. And they don't realize that this space meets. So the horizon line indicates where the sky meets the ground. In the center of our vision is the vanishing point. And right now I'm just going to be talking about 1 point perspective because these are basic. But if you get into 2-point perspective, this vanishing point will either split or move up and down. So for the most basic purpose, we're going to have our vanishing point right in the middle. So the vanishing point is the farthest spot when we are staring straight out that becomes too small for us to see, or is blocked by the curvature of the earth. The horizon line helps us understand how far things are from us. So on your picture plane, the lower a subject matter is, the closer it's going to be and the bigger it's going to be. The higher on the picture plane, or the closer it is to the horizon line, the smaller it will be and the less detail it will have. So closer things are bigger, brighter, more detailed, and the things that are farther away are smaller, less detailed, and become shadowed. The subject matter is anything that you're going to draw that you can point at and talk about. So a subject matter can be anything from a person, a place, or a thing. Typically in a regular drawing or a beginner drawing, you have things like buildings, trees and plants, human beings, cars, whatever have you. So depending on where we put this in our picture plane, they are going to diminish as they get farther away, and they're going to get bigger as they get closer. So these bring in the ideas of perspective. So if I want to draw a tree, when I draw a tree, I need it to go on the ground. So this is the ground. A lot of times we have students that draw it on top of the line, but that's on top of the horizon. So it's not really on the ground. So anything that is drawn should be on this bottom half. So if I am drawing a tree, and I'm going to use very basic drawing just to illustrate the point, literally and figuratively. So if this is my tree, it is going on the ground. It is below the horizon line, and this is my ground. So because it is lower on the picture plane, it is going to be bigger. It is closer to me. Whereas if I want to draw a tree that's farther away, I'm going to draw it higher on the picture plane, closer to the horizon line, and smaller. So this gives the illusion that this tree is farther away than this tree. Again, because this is lower on the picture plane and larger, and this is higher on the picture plane and smaller. As things get closer, they get more detailed. So considering that this tree is closer, this one I might want to throw individual leaves on, maybe some branches sticking out with leaves. Whereas this one that is farther away might just have specks for leaves. So the closer things get, the more detailed they get. The farther away they get, the less detailed they are. So looking at these areas of diminishment, it can help us figure out what size these things need to be, the subject matter, without having to do perspective and vanishing points and things like that. So here's my horizon line, and I'm going to divide this into 3 sections. So here's my first section, second section, third section. So this kind of helps me figure out how big things should be without having to do perspective and vanishing lines and things like that. So the things on the bottom are going to be closest. The things in between this section are going to be mid-range or medium. And these are going to be the farthest. So if I draw things that are close should be fairly large and even going off the page. If I'm drawing in the medium range, I would see the whole body. I would still have some detail, but not as much. If I were in the closest, and the farthest is going to have the least detail. So things that are closest is going to have the most detail. Things in the medium or mid-range are going to be less detailed, but still seeing detail. And the farthest is just going to be basic shapes.
Do more, do better.